I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. I made a mistake and didn't put my phone on D&D, and so when we were broadcasting, it got interrupted, and um, I don't think we ever recovered from that. So sorry. I'm gonna give the panelists a minute to kind of rejoin, but thank you guys for coming back to the student town hall. Hi, Dante. I hope you are well. Hi, Alicia. Okay, I'm bringing you back on.
I'm
Hi.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I think because that phone call came through, it never kind of recovered. So I just put my phone on D&D.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I'm just going to quickly start over again. Okay, so bear with me. Um, I love you too, Dante. I hope you're safe and making good choices. So, thank you guys for joining the Student Town Hall this evening. The whole purpose of this is to elevate the voices of students, especially during this time, during the pandemic and remote learning. There's been a lot of changes for students, and oftentimes, students are the ones who have the least power to kind of do what they want to do or to implement the things that they are being asked to implement. And so, students don't have a voice oftentimes because they have to do what the parents say, do what the teachers say, and they just have to kind of roll with the punches. And so, my whole purpose here for this evening is to lift the voice of students who actually, to me, in my opinion, are the most important people who are being impacted by all of this. And for the reasons I stated before, is that students don't have much power. So, because I am lifting the voice of students today, I also want to hold space for Marcel Pearson. I'm wearing his shirt. He was one of my students at Johnson College Prep, a very talented star basketball player. Didn't make all the right choices, but was super brilliant. And he was murdered right after he graduated from high school, right? A few days before he was supposed to go to orientation for college. And so I can't help but wonder what his life would have been like if schools were more interested in listening to students, understanding what they need, understanding what they want, how to engage them more. It makes me wonder if they would be more engaged in the whole process. So that's kind of why we're here. I have three panelists, a sixth grader, a 12th grader, and a college student. And so I'm going to go ahead and let the first panelist, Sanaya, introduce herself, tell you what grade she's in, and kind of how she's feeling about all of this.
Hi, I am Sanaya. I am a dancer, and I recently got accepted into a school, a AC program, Greenland Brooks High School Academy.
Yay! Congratulations! So,
Thank
for those of
you.
you guys who don't know what Sanaya is talking about, when she say AC, it's like an academic center, it's selective enrollment, and so it's the best and the brightest students get to go to the top schools in Chicago, which unfortunately all students don't have access to. But I'm grateful that you got in, Sanaya. That's a blessing. So, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
So talk to us a little bit about how you felt initially when you heard like, hey, school is going to be closed, and then kind of how you feel now knowing that you're not going to be returning back to school this year.
When I first heard it, I was actually happy because I didn't really think it through. But now I realize what's going on, and I do not really like it. I can't see anybody. I'm stuck in the house, bored. Yeah.
Yeah, so what you been doing with all your time?
Playing with my sisters on TikTok.
TikTok. That's awesome. I hear you on that. Talk to us a little bit about the workload. So what has your schoolwork been like? Is it different now than it was when you were in school, and how so?
It is different actually. We get work on the weekends, which we don't normally do it during school. So it's
Mm,
like a lot more.
mm. And then, so you have like technology and stuff at home to do your work, so that's not a problem for you.
Yeah.
Okay. How are your teachers engaging with you? Like, do they do video lessons, or do they just send you the email work? How do you get the work from your teachers?
I do video lessons. And
Mm.
one time I didn't want to turn my camera on, and I got they said I was embarrassing, which I didn't like what they did because that was. That was. I don't know why they said it was embarrassing. They said my grades was going to drop because I didn't want to turn my camera on.
Really?
Yes.
Your teachers said that was
Yeah.
embarrassing because you didn't want to put your camera on?
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. So what I know to be true based on some students that I've been talking to and even some teachers, they have said that, their house is a very private space and they don't want people to be
Yeah.
able to look in their house, see what they got going on. Or
Exactly.
what if you didn't get dressed for the day? Like whatever it is, like it doesn't mean you can't still listen to the lesson just because your camera is not on.
Yeah. I
Wow.
agree.
So here's what I'm going to suggest to you, Sanaya. So I consider myself to be a student and a parent advocate. And I know they said that your grade is going to drop because you didn't turn your camera on. That is not something that they can do. So
Oh.
if they can drop your grade because your camera is not on. They can drop your grade based on the work that you do or do not do. And so if you are turning in your work, even if you
Yes.
never see the teachers, even if you never join the lessons, as long as you're turning in your work, you should still be passing.
Okay.
So I need you to have the agency to email your teacher and say, like, hey, for whatever reason, you could tell her the reason you don't want to turn your camera on or not. You don't even owe her that, her or him. I don't know if it's the lady or a man, but tell them, like, hey, I'm not comfortable with my grade dropping because of that. Or if it drops, ask them, like, can you tell me why it dropped? Because I turned in my work. I'm unclear about why my grade is dropping.
Mhm.
And if you need help beyond that, your mom has my number. Please call me and I will make sure that I advocate on your behalf, but they should not be dropping your grade for that, okay?
Okay.
But I think you just speaking to the level of stress that students are going through right now. Like I can't even imagine you having to do all this remote learning and then having to worry about your grades because you're not on camera. Like, how
Yeah.
are you feeling? Like, do you feel stressed? Are you happy? Are you sad? Like, what sort of
I'm
things are you
I'm
feeling?
very stressed.
Tell me why.
Like I got my loads of work are going up. They blocked sites and they got mad at me because I couldn't do a Pearson site, but they blocked it. And then they said why didn't I say nothing when I did say something? And I don't know what's going on with their system, but they're blaming me for their problems.
Mm. That's tough. I'm sorry you're going through that. I would just say hang in there. The thing that I know to be true about life is that there will be a lot of roadblocks, and
Yeah.
sometimes they are there to frustrate you. But I know that you are strong. You're capable of pushing through those barriers. But again, make sure you're advocating for yourself. Let them know, like, hey, I did everything I needed to do. I emailed you on this day to let you know, or whatever it is that you're doing,
Mhm.
so that in the event that they do try to drop your grade, you will be able to kind of show them like you've done what you needed to do.
Okay.
I know your mom might be sitting next to you, but I also know she's amazing. So I'm hoping she doesn't get upset with this next question I'm going to ask you based on your response. I want to know what it is that you wish your parents knew during this time. So, like, hey, we're all stressed out. Your mom is probably stressed. You're stressed. Teachers are stressed. What do you wish your mom knew about you and how you're feeling at this time? You
Um.
looking at her? What she say? Alicia, don't be mad at her.
No, we're outspoken home here. We
Okay. Okay.
not really.
Okay.
Yeah, she's okay. So
Um.
tell us what you wish she knew.
I wish she knew immediately when everything was happening. I wish she knew what was really going on. She don't really know because she goes live and she has work to do at home.
Yeah, but I think you're bringing up a good point, right? Parents are parents. They have to
Yeah,
work, they have to do all these other things, and like they don't have necessarily the time or capacity to figure out all the school stuff. So I don't
exactly.
think that's a bad thing, and I don't think that's her fault. Or I know she's an awesome parent, but I think that you are bringing empathy to light that I wish parents had from schools as well. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. What do you wish your teachers knew?
I wish my teachers knew that how much work they are giving me, and I wish they realized that they're not comparing it, and that I could still hear them and do my work without my camera being shown.
So having more empathy for you and what you got
Yes,
going
my
on.
point of view. No, my point of view.
And they have work. So
Yes.
what kind of have like how has the work been? Has it been interesting work? Is it boring work? What would you say about the work?
It's very boring because some of the stuff they didn't really teach us. They just gave it to us, and they said, you should learn how to figure it out yourself or something. Even though they didn't really teach it to us online, they showed us a video and they said do. And then they assigned the work and said it's due this day or that day.
Got it. So you wish that they were able to understand that just because they showed you a video doesn't mean that you actually got it.
Exactly.
Thank you. What else do I want to know from you before I let you go? How do you imagine school being when you return? Like, what do you think it should be like, or what do you think it's going to be like? Do you think it's going to be the same? Do you think it's going to be different?
I think it's gonna be very different. I don't think it's gonna be the same. And hopefully they slow down the work that they're giving us and they explain it out more in person if it's harder for them on camera.
Got you. Is there anything else you feel like you want? So there are parents listening, teachers listening, principals, probably people your age. Is there anything else you feel like you want to share with those watching?
Just not really, just work hard and life gonna give you what it gives you, which you push through.
Oh, you are so amazing. I am so proud of you. Congratulations
Thank
for
you.
all your hard work and for being accepted into Gwendolyn Brooks. You are amazing. You have a brilliant mind. Your level of reflection and analysis about what you need and where you are is amazing. And so I want you to walk in your greatness and be able to tell people, even if they are adults, very respectfully, teachers,
Yeah.
principals, whoever, hey, this is what I need from you, and I need you to help support me. Okay. So it's
Okay.
okay to do that. You are an amazing young person, and I am so grateful that you took the time to be with us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanaya. Have a good one and have a great school year. Okay.
You too.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Um, Jackie, I'm gonna bring you on next. So that was our sixth grader. I am going to bring on the 12th grader so that we can hear a perspective from high school. Here she is. And if you guys have questions, Fatboy, I know you're at my door. I'm on live. I can't come to the door right now. You said you were coming at 3:30, sir. It's 6 something. So I will come meet you after the live is over. It should be over around 7. Hey, Jackie, he's
Better late
knocking on
than
my
never.
window. I'm like, you said you was coming earlier. Okay, so Jackie is a current senior, and I want her to be able to kind of tell you her perspective around how she's feeling about this whole pandemic. She has an incredible story. I don't know how personal she's going to get or not, but Jackie, tell us first how you felt when you first heard school was not going to be in session anymore, and then kind of how you feel now.
First, being out of school, I was kind of like, okay, we're gonna be out of school for a short while. I thought it was gonna be like a spring break, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like I'm losing so much, because I know I be making posts on Facebook and it's crazy. I can't remember how to spell simple words like
Mm.
example exactly, and it's kind of crazy because I always just talk about how don't wait till your teachers give you this. You should go and exercise your education. But I haven't been doing that lately. Well, yeah, I haven't been doing that lately. And it's kind of difficult because when we first was out, I was doing all the work online and stuff like that. But it's been challenging because of my dad being here, my granny being here, and then so much happening at home and me
Mm-hmm.
not focusing so much on schoolwork. And so it's like it's kind of hard to balance out which comes first and which one is more important.
Mm. Yeah, so and here's the thing, Jackie, like not thinking about what people have told you to believe is the most important, but like if you, like your own thoughts, your own perception, your own feelings, what would you say is most important to you, your family or school?
I would say my family is more important to me. I mean, school will be there where I can take a break and go back. It may not be the exact plan that I had, but it's still gonna be there for me to get back to it. Where my family, they have a limit, you know, my dad being sick and my grandmother being old, and with this pandemic going on, I don't speak into existence, but you know, I don't know how long my dad, you know, has pretty much. And so I really want to be there during this time, especially since we're staying so close together. I have been bonded so much with my dad and my grandmother, and it's been amazing, and it's been a roller coaster, but it's been great to actually see the stuff that I really don't see, because when I be at school, I don't get that 12 o'clock, oh, the show comes on and we go in the living room together and we watch it, and I learned so much stuff about my grandmother and my dad that I really didn't know, and it's surprising because I've been living with them for 18 years.
Yeah, but I think what you're pointing out though, Jackie, is that learning is not just textbook, right? And so I'm super proud of you for being able to say right now, like, strongly, like, family is most important to you right now. And it doesn't mean that school is not important to you. It just means your family is a priority. With your dad being sick, with your grandmother being older, you really want to make sure that you are capitalizing on the time that you have with them right now, because you don't know how much more time you're going to have. And I actually don't think that that's a bad thing. I think unfortunately there are some educators out there who will assume that you don't care about your learning, you don't care about education, you don't care about, you know, the e-learning stuff, because you're not engaged in the way that they think you need to be engaged. But how many teachers, I mean, and you could be honest in answering this, how many of them actually know the situation for real about what you're going through right now? Do you think that many of them know?
Um, a lot of my teachers have been reaching out to me. However, it's kind of short to where my advisor knows, and maybe my reading teacher and my math teacher knows, but other teachers, they'll like email me to just check up on me since I haven't been, you know, really that active, but they don't really know the whole big thing.
Okay. But would you say when they're checking up on you, is it really a checkup, or are they saying like, hey, I'm reaching out because you didn't do your work?
Hey, I'm reaching out because you didn't do your work.
Yeah.
Because
And, and that's real, right? And because I get, as a teacher, we want what's best for our students and we want to make sure that they're not getting far behind. But I think this time is the time to reset everything that we've known to be true about education and the role of the teacher, to really ask, like, hey, how are you? What's going on? Do you need anything? How can I support you? As opposed to, because I think oftentimes when teachers reach out and say, hey, I'm reaching out because you didn't do the work, it's like, okay, but do you know why I haven't done the work, right? Like, don't email me telling me that I haven't been online, because I already know I haven't been online. Like, do the work to try to figure out what's the barrier or why I've chosen not to, rather than assume that I don't want to do it. So I appreciate you, Jackie, for being honest about your situation with your dad and with your grandmother, and prioritizing your family. I don't think that's a bad thing. And so I know you're a senior. Talk to me about what you're feeling in regards to losing out on all of your senior, you know, activities. How has that been for you?
it's actually I actually got pregnant during my senior year, and there was a struggle for me to, you know, go to prom and how I was going to do graduation, because her due date was so close to graduation and me walking across stage, and I was really like, oh, okay, it's whatever being pregnant, but now it's like, man, I only get this once in a lifetime, and now I might not even have it, or it might be alternated where I can't get the real feeling, and my dad and my grandmother, my family can't get that emotional connection watching me walk across the stage these 4 years that we've been, you know, struggling, doing work, and I wanted to, you know, be at the top, and it's kind of hard and difficult because I'm not that one quick learner in school, and it takes me a minute to get it, and I need that teacher
Connection.
contact. Yeah, I need that one-on-one with the teachers and me to see you do it actually. And it's kind of hard doing it on live and on a computer. And um to be honest, you know, I missed a lot of days in school because of the pregnancy. And so I really don't know how I supposed to, you know, make it up because I was supposed to go to a summer class. So
Mm,
that's really kind of tricky. And I've been, you know, trying to reach out, and people like, well, I don't know, you
yeah.
can do this and that. And so it's like, am I going to actually be able to graduate whether I'm walking across the stage or not, since I didn't complete this class?
Well, here's the one thing. So Trayvon, thank you for joining. Trayvon went to a school in the network that you go to, Jackie. I'm not saying any specific names of any schools, but he understands when you're talking about doing all this paying off. Like he went to a school that's in the network that you went to. And so I'm gonna tell you this, Jackie, you know me, I'm your cousin. You will graduate. We're not for none. So we're gonna figure it out. Now I'm not saying you shouldn't make up your work. Like we will, if we have to, you know, reach out and say, hey, you know, what can she do in the absence of being in summer school, right? Because it's not your fault that you're not able to go to summer school. If you got to do an extra paper or do a, you know, a service project, if you can, like we will figure that out, but you will be going to college in the fall. So I can understand why that's stressful for you. I also want to say that the schools are right. They probably don't know how to handle it because this is not in the handbook. They've never had this issue happen before, so they're trying to figure it out. But you can rest assured that you will be graduating. So thank you for sharing that. If you guys have questions for she's a senior in high school or student perspective just around anything, feel free to put them in the comments. Bree said she loves how you're able to articulate such a mature opinion. Keep pushing, young queen. So Jackie, tell me what you wish your family knew during this time. So it's a pandemic, everybody's stressed out, you know, you're stressed out, they're stressed, teachers are stressed. What do you wish your family knew about how you feel and what you need?
um I really, that's kind of, you know, that's kind of hard. I don't know, because you know, with our family, we don't get into the grimy feeling emotional part. But I wish we did have that connection. I wish we understood each other more about what's actually going on in our, like, you know, heads, and how we're really feeling about this. And we say, oh, I hate this and I want to be in a house, but we don't really say how, why you want to be outside so much,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, being distracted with the outside world, you not battling with your mind or stuff that's going on with yourself. And especially with my grandmother, I think that she's been closed off about, you know, Auntie Pat dying, and she's been shutting down, and I've been trying to, you know, get her to talk about it, but I don't really want to push it. So I wish we connected more on like a spiritual emotional level.
And so, Jackie, you're bringing up some really deep and awesome stuff. I'm so happy. I'm so proud. First of all, I need to tell you publicly how proud of you I am. You have been through so much. No, seriously, legit. And you are. I'm not just saying this because you're my little cousin. It's evident by what people are saying about you and how you're able to express yourself. But you know, we've always talked about how our family needs to be more emotionally available to one another. And I don't want to speak for other families, but I can tell you based on my experience as a school leader with students that this is more common than we would probably like to think. How, you know, people could live in the same house day to day, how we could love one another, how we can, you know, do all these things together and still not really know how we're doing or how we're feeling, right? Because we've been taught to sweep things under the rug or pray about it. It's going to be okay and all these things. And I think what Jackie is underscoring here is that, like, I just lost my mom, who was her auntie, and she lives with, you know, her grandmother, and her grandmother, which is my grandmother, is still mourning the loss of her daughter. And so she doesn't know how to really be there emotionally for her. Not to mention that her son is also battling cancer right now. So these are the things that I wanted to put on display for people to hear, because we don't think about kids enough. We don't think about the mental anguish. We don't think about the emotional roller coasters that students are on, because we think that because they're young, they don't have any bills to worry about, that they don't have any concerns or cares. And it's simply just not true. We really have to understand that our young people need us. They are going through a lot. And, you know, you would be surprised just how much a simple, how are you? Like, no, legit, how are you today? How can I support you? What do you need? How are you feeling? Right? Like, really push yourselves. If you are a parent, if you are a teacher, or you deal with young people, ask those open-ended questions. Don't just say, did you have a good day? And then they say yes. We got to dig deeper. And I just want everybody to give themselves grace, but also extend grace and compassion to other people, because these are stories you don't hear about. So when you are emailing students and saying, hey, you didn't complete the work, they know they didn't complete the work. They don't need you to remind them or tell them that they didn't complete the work. Like, the question is, how much investment are you willing to put in to make sure that you are there for them and supporting them? Because like Jackie said, for her, her family is a priority right now, not school. And she's super smart. She's at an IB school. She's, you know, capable of all these great things. But like she said, school will be there. I don't know how much time I have left with my family. That's most important. And I think we all have to make sure that we are giving people the space to deal with this pandemic in the way that they need to deal with it, not make them feel bad about it, not threaten them to, you know, lower their grades, like I'm hearing some teachers and administrators are talking about. Like, if you are on this live and you have a baby and you guys don't know how to navigate this, reach out to me, send me a message, because I will advocate for you. There is no failing. Kids are not failing right now. There are no F's being given. I don't care if your kid never does an assignment while on this stay-at-home order. There is no F. So, you know, and sometimes we just don't have the education to know what you can put. Don't worry about it. Be a parent. Do what you can do. Provide, protect, feed your babies. Reach out to me and let me take care of that if you need support navigating this whole thing. Okay. Jackie, what do you wish your teachers knew about how you're feeling and what you're thinking right now about work?
Pretty much what you said, that, you know, just because we're students, like, you know, we go through things also, and everything is not in our control. So just because we can't do the work doesn't mean we don't want to do the work. It's like we don't have the necessary tools, or we don't have the time, or, you know, being outside of school, maybe being in school, we can do the work, and outside of school was a different story. And now that we're home and we're not in that school environment, it's a struggle, because, you know, kids that stay at school just to do their homework because they at home they didn't have the time to do it. Like me, I would stay after school to do the work because I didn't have time to do it at home.
Mm-hmm. And so, as Jackie mentioned, she has a father who is not super healthy right now. She has a grandmother who is older. And so she, you know, does chores around the house, cooks, washes clothes, does the dishes, all those sorts of things. And so, these are all of the things that students are dealing with at home. And so, this is not every student's story, but every student has a unique story. And it's up to us as educators and those who are supporting them on their journey educationally to figure out what's going on and to help navigate that for them. I can't thank you enough, Jackie, for how vulnerable you have been. And I know it's emotional for you, and just all that you have been able to accomplish in spite of everything. You made it to senior year. We will celebrate you. I told whatever it is that you need, we are going to make it happen for you. So I know it's not easy for me to just tell you don't stress about it, because you're still going to be stressed. You still don't get to walk across the stage and all these different things. And I can't imagine how you feel as a result of being robbed of those memories, like you said, that you'll never get. And so my privilege is acknowledging that I had that opportunity, and I'm sorry that you won't. And it's unfortunate, because you really worked hard about, and being serious about your work in order to do that. So I really appreciate you. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your experience with the work or this pandemic, just being a young person navigating all of this? There are viewers on here who are administrators, teachers, parents. Like, what advice or words would you give to those watching?
I feel like, with all this, oh man, I can't do this and I can't do that. I looked in the middle of, this will help me in a job environment, being in college and not having the teachers on my back to, do work and stuff like that. And even in the real world, how you're gonna have things like this, and it's helping me adapt quickly to how my surroundings are changing, because I never really like changes. So I feel like that's the good thing that came out of this scenario, was being able to adapt to the scenario change.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're looking for the silver lining, right? In all of this, there's something to be learned. So you're a senior, you're going to be going off to college, hopefully in the fall. We don't know what that looks like. Do you want to say anything about how you're feeling about that? Like, what if school is completely still online in the fall, and even though you're a college student, but you might still be at home? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Now that it has been crossing my mind, even though I've been, trying to, call the college and see what's going on, and are we doing online classes? Are we gonna be able to go on campus and stuff like that? And I've been really scared, actually, because now that part I don't know how to handle at all, because I'm not gonna be in Chicago for college. I will be in Iowa, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to, travel down there to be able to actually be there if the campus.
Yeah, Jackie, I think you might have broke up just a little bit, but I heard you say that you actually don't know the answer to that. You don't know how you're going to be able to respond to that, because colleges don't even know what's going to happen in the fall. Um, Trayvon said he's one of my former advisees. He's a career boy. He said, "You're such a wise young lady," and I echo that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your brilliance. You are amazing. The best is yet to come for you. And you know that anything you need, I got you. So we will figure out your whole walking across the stage situation, even if it's figuratively and not literally, but you will graduate. And so we'll connect to figure out what you got to do to make that happen. So I'll make sure I follow up with you on that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good evening.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye. Okay, so that was the second panelist. I have one more panelist. So we've heard from a sixth grader, that was a 12th grader, and now I have a college student who is coming on to share her perspective. Raven, so if you could go ahead and request to be brought, there we go. Perfect. So I'm bringing Raven on, who was a former student of mine. I was her 11th grade math teacher, and she is a joy to be around, a brilliant young lady. She's amazing. So I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her, kind of, what she's doing in college, what the point of she is in her journey, and etc. Go ahead, Raven.
Hi, so my name is Raven. I graduated from Johnson College Prep High School. I then went on to Syracuse University, graduated with my bachelor's from Syracuse in education. And then now I just graduated from Marquette with my master's.
Congratulations.
So my master's was in, thank you. My master's was in student affairs and higher education.
Yeah. You're so dope, Raven. I'm just glad that you're here. So talk to us. I mean, and oftentimes we talk about K-12 spaces and students and how they're feeling, but how has everything been for you as a college student?
Yeah, so I feel like my experience is a little different, especially being a grad student and being a graduate professional. And so I have to balance my work life and also my student life. So before the pandemic, I found myself focusing a lot on like the professional side. And so also on the academic side, but not as much as I was during my undergrad years.
Okay.
And so I found that it was a little different, but I would just focus more on my professional side. Like I worked with many different students, like the Urban Scholars Program, and also in residence life as well. And so just getting to know those students, building relationships with them, having that support system in place for them was also very important. But my experience, like I said, I juggled between professionalism and also being a student. And so just trying to like navigate that. Sometimes it was very difficult, especially like before this whole pandemic thing, because it's just a lot. It's just a lot to deal with. But after the whole COVID-19 thing happened, I found myself having to focus more on being a student. Okay, so like, how do I navigate this online system of getting my students more involved within like virtual events and stuff like that? Are they even going to be motivated to do those things? Also, just really focusing on like academically, like I know for a fact, like I'm not the best at online classes. I tried it at Syracuse. It is not my thing. Right. And so, like, I'm just, I've always been the one to like, just get support and also to just, reach out to people, like advocate for myself. I've always been that person. And so just having that question of who do I reach out to now? I'm a grad student, so that looks a little different for me. Who do my students reach out to if they need help, right? So,
yeah, it's a lot, Raven. I commend you for hanging in there because like you said, like we know that there are so many different modes of learning, and like some students are thriving during e-learning, and they're excited about it because they don't feel confined to sit in their seat or at their desk or being around 30 other students, right? But then there are some students who are like, this ain't it, and I think that is very real. And so I see Scott saying that he believes e-learning is here for the long haul, and I think that we have to challenge that because there's a lot of things that technology just can't provide. The human connection, even myself being a graduate student, like the level of discussion that we have on Zoom is very different than the level of discussion we have face to face, especially when we're talking about, critical topics. If we're talking about race, if we're talking about oppression, right? Like you want to see people's body language, you want to see, how they're responding, and so I think that while we probably could leverage technology a bit more, I do not want to see the human connection and the social aspect of education be done away with, because that's just not, to me, it's not a method that'll get us to equity. And we talk about equity all the time, and equity is making sure everybody gets what they need. And for some students, e-learning could be what they need. For other students, the human connection is what they need. And so if equity is our goal, we have to make sure that we are advocating for practices that will meet the needs of all students. So thank you for sharing that, Raven.
Yeah, I think
No, go
I
ahead.
also think like my cohort, very hands-on. We have like projects that we work on together. And so we actually finished like a capstone class where it was a huge project. And so just navigating that online and trying to figure out who does what is also very much so difficult. That project was like 80 pages, single spaced.
Wow.
Like it was a lot to do. And so I think but I will say, like, my professor, she was very much so like, yeah, just whatever you guys can get in, just make sure that, you're working together 100% because that is the most important thing right now at this time. And so just having to like finish all of that, that was
A
a
lot,
lot.
right? I'm looking at what folks are saying in the comments. So Scott is saying it's going to fall on parents and or parents to feel the human connection, and I just don't know that. So here is my concern. I think we are putting a lot on parents, right? And I'm not a biological parent. I will consider myself to be a life assigned parent to many students. But what I will say is that if a parent didn't go to school to be a teacher, they should not be required to be a teacher. If I went to school to be an accountant or, to be an entrepreneur and I've started my own business, that's what you can count on me for. Teachers are teachers because that's their gift and they signed up for that work. That is not the work of parents. And I think we have to dispel this myth that, teachers, homeschool teachers. Like, that's just ludicrous. Like, teaching is a science, which is why I feel like even this whole idea of e-learning and watching videos and doing all this, like, you can watch a video, but there's a science to teaching, and relationship building is a part of that science. And so, yes, parents can have conversations with, their children at home, but in terms of the social interaction, the things that you will learn, being around peers of the same age, even being at lunch, recess, all of those things, those are learning moments throughout the day that I think students need access to. So I just want to be careful that we're not putting all of the responsibility on parents to, provide for their child, pay the bills, make sure it's food on the table, clothes are in their bag, be the teacher, and like provide these social interactions. I just don't know that that's fair. But I hear you, Scott, and I think we all have, different opinions on that, and that's okay. Let me see what else is said.
Well,
Go ahead, Raven.
You also got to think about first generation students in college. And so a lot of them have parents and other siblings who've never been in college, right? So they don't know what to do, how to support their student. And so that's where we step in as professionals, like, hey, what do you need from us? Because that's what they need in that moment. And so just thinking about their environment that they're in right now, they probably don't even have a space, their own little space to like sit there and focus on their work. They probably have siblings running around, and I know a lot of my students do, because they come from different backgrounds, different cultures. And so thinking about that, a lot of my students as of now, their parents are like, okay, well, since you're here, you can help take care of the kids, take care of the families. And so a lot of them are like, I have this to do. I don't know how I'm going to get all of this done. And so just thinking about like the difficult times here for them, and their parents are not able to fully understand or capable of really understanding the work that they're doing right now and how much of a load they can take.
Yeah, definitely. Trayvon asked the question. He said, how do you properly attend school to obtain higher education when classroom and online learning isn't conducive to the progression of the student? Asking for myself and others. If I understand his question correctly, I think he's saying like, there's a desire to obtain higher education, but the actual classroom and online experience is not meeting his needs or the needs of other students. And so like, it's like this whole idea of like, it's college prep. We want you to go to college, get a degree, but what we're doing in the K-12 spaces aren't necessarily preparing them in the way that they need to be prepared to actually get the degree. Do you have any thoughts about that, Raven?
It's a lot, Trayvon. It really is. You're not really prepared. Like when you're in a classroom physically, you're not really prepared at all to have those online classes, like in the middle of the semester. And so you have to actively be seeking out online classes from the very start to know exactly what you're getting into. And so just to have like students like shift to online classes, that's a lot, especially for like students with learning disabilities.
Yes.
That is a lot to do. Like, how do you navigate getting them time for like their testing and stuff like that? You really can't really, because, well, you can, but and you can give them more time on their assignments still. But what about when they're get ready to like take a test?
Right.
Do they get more
Right.
time as like the other students? Because it's timed at this point. And so, like, what do you do for that? Like, it's really difficult. It's a difficult, complicated situation for a lot of students right now.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at Scott's comment. He said the old model of schooling is out of the window, and that's actually where I was going with Trayvon's question, because I think and I think both works, right? And like I think you're right too. It's like you're being thrown into online when you're used to sitting in the classroom. But I think from my perspective, and Trayvon just gave me another idea for our next slide, which would be students. Again, a version 2 of this is like bringing students on who are super brilliant, had every potential to graduate, college and get all these extra degrees, and just didn't for whatever reason. Like, I want to elevate their stories, because the truth is like something failed within the K-12 space for them not to be able to live out their dreams and their desires, right? And so I want to elevate your story, Trayvon, so you can expect a message from me after this to figure out when you're free to do this, hopefully next Monday. But to Scott's point, the old model of schooling is out of the window, especially after this, after COVID, and students having the flexibility to, get up at 9, right? As opposed to being up at 5, out the door by 7, and be in class by 8. I can get up at 9, do some work, play my game, come back, do some work, do a couple jumping jacks, play with the basketball, take a nap, eat lunch, come back, do my work, right? There's so much flexibility right now that students are experiencing. And to me, that is what we need to take away from this, because if we try to go back to school the way that we've been doing school, sit in this desk for 45-minute periods, for 8 periods a day, like one of the 6th graders I was talking to said, Miss Carew, I'm trying to figure out how come I'm able to do my teacher's lesson in 8 minutes. And if that's the case, why do we have 90-minute classes? That's a great question, right? And so if we are going to really use this as an opportunity to leverage student voice, we need to hear them as saying, like, I work best when I am able to be flexible in my learning, when I am able to decide when I'm hungry, when I am able to, take a break, come back to my work, take a break. And so we really need to reconfigure the entire educational space in order to meet the needs of students, because if we don't, when we go back to school and expect kids to do the same thing they were doing pre-COVID, their phones are going to be off the chain, because teachers are going to be calling. They can't sit still. They're not paying attention. Well, it's hard for them to do that now that they can see how successful they can be, not in this super rigid space, and to have breaks in between is going to be really hard. So I think we do, to your point, Scott, have to rethink the model, because the model is outdated and it doesn't work for the kids that we're serving. What else did he say? In my opinion, go ahead, Reagan.
And to Scott's point of saying the old model of schooling is out of the window and it's a whole new wave of learning, he just might be right, because now this whole COVID pandemic has given a lot of institutions the opportunity to shift a little earlier for what's going to happen in 10 years. So what's going to happen in 10 years is we're going to have fewer 9-year-olds, and that a lot of those schools, like those small schools, liberal arts schools, a lot of those just small schools in general are going to close, because they're not going to have much student population coming in, pulling in. And so when you look at higher education in 10 years, it'll look way different. It'll be online. And so, like he said, like we have to mold students now to figure out how to navigate this online thing, because this is kind of what it's going to look like in 10 years.
And I think that that's fair, right? I also think that there needs to be a blended model, right? So perhaps students can learn the book work at home, but then when they come to the building, if it's 2 times a week, 3 times a week or whatever, to do like your PE, to do your social gatherings, to do projects, hands-on projects, right? Those sorts of things, right? Because I do think the learning that can be done at home can be done at home, right? I think there's questions around parents being able to watch their children and do all those, you know, in terms of childcare. But I think that under no circumstance would I ever advocate for completely remote learning, because the social impact and the implications of kids not having that is just too great. He said, in his opinion, parents are the first educators. How did kids learn before they were allowed to attend school? I think you're right on that. But here's my push to you, Scott, is we say parents are the first educators, but the problem is we want them to educate in the way we want them to educate and not the way that makes the most sense for them. For example, if I am the parent at home, I could teach my kid time, fractions, measurements, all while cooking a dinner recipe. That's a lesson, right? It doesn't look like sit down on this piece of paper and do 10 problems about measurement. It looks like me integrating learning and teaching into day-to-day activities that make sense. That is what I mean when I say parents are the first teacher. I don't mean parents are the first teacher in that you need to know science and earth science and physics and algebra and geometry. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, can we sit down and watch a Netflix series together? Can we unpack it together? Can we have a debate about what was there? Can you tell me from this character's perspective how they might be feeling? All of that is learning. But I think the problem is that we as educators think we know more or better than the parents and the students, when it's like, that's not the case. Like, empower parents to teach their kids in the way that makes the most sense for the day-to-day work. Raven, did you have anything to add?
Oh no, you did great.
Okay. He's saying all of the responsibility is absolutely on the parent, and I just disagree. I disagree.
I don't think it's all on the parent. No. This is why it's a system for a reason. It's a system for a reason. And so just utilizing that system, you can't raise one child based on just one person. It has to be the whole system involved within, like, raising these kids and also educating these kids as well. And so I just don't think that the parent should always be first in line for something. No, I don't agree with that.
I mean, and you know, maybe it's no right or wrong. It's just a different way of thinking about it. But I think what I don't want politicians to do is to latch on to that idea. And I think we have to be very careful, especially as students and educators, with what we say, because they will quickly use this as an opportunity to say, we don't need teachers. Why are we paying teachers? We don't need teachers. Parents can do it. But guess who's going to be impacted when teachers are being removed and kids are being expected to learn everything that they need to learn at home, with parents who are working 12-hour jobs, two shifts, night and day? Like, our Black and brown babies are going to suffer the most when we then start to say that it's up to the parent to take care of all of that. Well, we know certain communities are going to be impacted by that. So I think we just have to be very careful with our verbiage and our language around this, because politicians will latch onto that quickly. I think this, frankly, is an opportunity for them to kind of test run to see, like, well, you know, why are we paying teachers? Why do we need school buildings if kids are doing everything they need to do now? It's like, that's why I'm elevating the voice of students to say, like, no, this is not okay. I miss my friends. I need the teacher to actually teach me hands-on in the same space, because if we don't be deliberate about elevating those voices, they're going to turn it around and make it seem like we don't need it.
Yeah. I mean, what works now? Like, if you look around the world, what's working for the education system? Finland has a great system that we could easily take and implement into our education system. So we really have to look at best practices all over. And a lot, but the United States education system, we're just not very good at doing that. We believe we believe that standardized testing is the way to go. Standardized testing doesn't do a thing. Nothing.
Let's see what Trayvon said. He says, personally, I don't have the capacity to sit in a lecture to learn, not because I can't or comprehend the content, but because I have to sit and listen / watch. Online learning work is easy, but I can't force myself to work on a computer all day. My brain doesn't have the capacity to be deduced to a robot. for me, working on a computer kills my creativity, which in turn kills my thirst for learning. I think, Trayvon, you hit it on the head, right? So here's the thing, and that is why we just cannot completely rely on technology for everything. Like, we just can't. And in terms of creativity, which is why I think, in my opinion, when we restructure this educational space, it's like, do we have makers labs? Do we have, flex blocks where kids can actually take ownership of their own learning and say, look, no teacher is going to tell you what you need to do right now. You have 90 minutes of just go in the lab, knock it out. It's all kind of materials here for you. If you want to build something, if you want to research something based on your interest, like, what are we doing to foster the creativity of kids? Because right now, I feel like we are telling them what's best for them, what's important for them to learn, as opposed to their voice being elevated to say, this is what I need, this is how I want it, and this is how I retain information. So I think, Trayvon, to your point, yes, your creativity is going to be stifled when you're expected to sit in a desk for 45 minutes for 8 periods a day with the teacher talking at you like you're not smart enough to comprehend. And Trayvon will tell you, when I was his 11th grade math teacher, Trayvon had questions for me that I didn't have the answers to. And that meant that I was doing my job, because I was encouraging him to be better than me, to be smarter than me. You have the thirst, you have everything within you to practice self-determination. What do you want? Take ownership of it and go afterwards. So I think in that way, we have to Trayvon's point, we have to figure out how to cultivate and nurture the creativity that our kids have, as opposed to suppressing them through the oppressive practices that the educational institution was founded on. And I think that that's, huge for where we got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see what else they're saying. Real world application. Yes, real world application is important.
Mm-hmm.
What approach would you suggest? Trey, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what that was in response to. What approach would we suggest?
Like, what approach exactly, from like a point of view from K to 12, or a point of view from like
Miss Mobley? Yes, learning needs to be more student directed anyway. Absolutely. The teacher is not the bearer of all knowledge. The teacher does not know everything. And I think teachers, while important, they need to facilitate student learning, but they don't need to own it and they don't need to dictate it. I think we have to get out of this mindset that adults know what's best for kids. If you ask students what they want to learn, what they are interested in, they will tell you. And that's how you're going to get more investment.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Like, I was in the third grade, advocating for myself, telling my teachers and telling like administrative that I needed an IEP. And it took me a while to get one, because I went at home, I told my parents, they didn't help me out. So I really had to like advocate for myself. And so when I finally told the new counselor at the school that I need an IEP, she got right on it and she tested me, and all my parents had to do was come to the school and sign the paperwork. We know what we want, even at an early age, even at 8 years old. And so all we have to do is really speak up, but we're really not giving the opportunity to speak up because it's your child.
You don't know.
You know what I'm saying? And so,
well, Raymond, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, because I think advocacy is so huge. And I think that's part of the skills we need to teach our kids. But when we have oppressive discipline systems where kids can't even ask a question without being deemed as disrespectful, then it forges us to then just close our mouths and be quiet. Because if I say anything, you're going to say I'm disrespectful. You're going to say that I'm, not, respecting my elders, or whatever the case is. And so I'm glad that you were able to push past that and actually advocate for yourself. And to your point, and what Asia just said in the comments too, not all parents have the skills to teach their kids and to even know. And to your earlier point, Raven, if I didn't go through the college system, or if I didn't graduate from high school, how do I know how to advocate for my baby and what they need? It doesn't mean that I don't want what's best for them. I just don't know how to access that for them. And so I'm grateful you had a counselor who listened to you even at 8 years old to say, let's look into this and figure out what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my mom really tries hard. She's a great mother, but she doesn't really know like what it takes for me to like finish an assignment. She doesn't really know like how to write the assignment or how to study. Great support system. Like I can vent to her, I can do all of that, but otherwise, like as far as like getting things done, that's for me to figure out on campus with other support systems in place.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Jaquaya said, Badu said the other day, school should teach integrity and responsibility. Jaquay, don't get me started. You know, on our education collaborative meetings, I'll be going in about the purpose of school, why we have it, what should we be teaching. I frankly don't think schools should be teaching anything that kids could get on Google and find the answer to quickly. Like, why am I sitting in a 45-minute lecture
Khan Academy
about something that I could like literally look up? And I legit on Saturday went to one of my advisees' house. He's in 6th grade because his mama was like, Miss Corey, if you don't come get him, I'm gonna kill him. He's not doing his work. I go to his house. I'm sitting with him at the table doing work. And guess what he's doing? He's doing long division and multiplying decimals. And I'm sitting here like trying not to get frustrated myself because I'm like, where's the calculator? Here's the thing. I know how to do long division. I know how to multiply decimals, but I'm not doing that on hand. Why would I need to do that? And so for him, he's frustrated because he's like, this is hard for me to learn. Now, when we were doing order of operations, he knew how to do that, but he didn't know how to immediately recall certain multiplication facts. And my thing is, that's where technology comes in. Why are we forcing kids to struggle and be frustrated with skills that are not important for them to waste their mental capacity trying to learn how to do, when if they could use the calculator for those simple skills to actually help them access the higher level thinking, why are we frustrating them? So I'm like, why aren't you doing your work? He like, this is what I'm talking about, Ms. Crew. It's 50 problems of multiplying decimals and long division. I don't want him sitting there doing that. So yeah, my thing is, what are we actually teaching in school? And if kids are voting with their feet, meaning they're not engaged, they're dropping out and doing all these things, we have to be more conscious about why that is. Because if it was relevant, if it was linked to everyday life, they would certainly want to do it. And if you talk to any of my former students, they'll say, you know, nobody taught me about credit. Nobody taught me about how to manage my money. Yes. Nobody taught me about how to be a responsible human being. Nobody taught me about, like, those are the skills that they actually need to learn, because if you have those, you can go out and learn anything.
All of that. Honestly, though, like, there's a lot of shows, TV shows that kids can watch and learn from, like Shark Tank. You don't have to put math problems all day, every day in front of them and try to, like, make them figure it out and look at a Khan Academy video and make them figure that out. Shark Tank is a great resource for like investing, learning that stuff. Like, I mean, it's just a lot of shows out here that you can definitely pull up on YouTube as well and learn from.
Or even apps, right? They have these I want to call them fake apps where people can practice how to like trade stocks and all of that online. And if you had a general list of questions, regardless of what your portfolio is, okay, how much did you make today? How much did you, it closed today? What was that? So I think to make it relevant and also helpful for long-term success, we just have to do, as educators, have to do more work around how to make it meaningful and relevant for them. Ms. Mobley says kids should be in charge. I totally agree with that. But the problem is, Ms. Mobley, and this is where I'm stuck, because I'm sitting at tables. I have a meeting this week with the school who's trying to think about what next year is going to look like. And my question to them was like, why are we talking about what next year is going to look like when we don't have kids at the table? We don't know what they need. We don't know what they want. We don't know anything. We're just going to come up with this elaborate plan. And then when they come back to school, we're going to wonder why they're not in tune with it, because we haven't asked their opinion. And it's because we don't think that it's valuable. And it's unfortunate because they have a lot to offer. We're just not leveraging them. So yeah.
Absolutely.
What did Trey say? We need to stop choosing who gets access to certain forms of education. Yeah. Same thing with Sanaya, who was just the 6th grader. She said she got into Gwendolyn Brooks, and I'm super proud and excited for her. But my heart also aches for all the students who don't get to go to Gwendolyn Brooks. Like, and let's be clear, the select and enrollment schools are not the bar either, because they got stuff going on that's outdated and needs to be rethought of as well. They have a little more freedom, which is great, but that's not the bar for me and for our Black and brown kids, but it's better than what some have access to. So to Trey's point, yeah, everybody deserves access.
Yeah, but choosing, like, that's a whole nother subject because I feel like there's a lot of choosing in this world. Like it's especially like with the higher ed level, especially with that level. He say like we need to stop choosing who gets access, but the truth is that's all over. Like we're never really going to stop choosing who gets access and who does not, because then it'll start. Where does that start? That's the big question. Like, where does that start?
It
And
starts
so
with
does
white
that start with
supremacy,
that?
though, right? We know, and I
Exactly.
had posted an article, and I'll put it in the comments after this is over, but an article around the hidden curriculum that talks about 4 different types of schools in the school system. There are working class schools, which are primarily geared toward poor Black and brown students. You have middle class schools. You have elite schools. You have the schools that basically reinforce power, which are for the white rich people. And so schools basically reinforce the societal norms around the poor stays poor, the rich stays rich. That's just it. And so to your point though, Raven, we have to do our part to dismantle the white supremacist values and practices that education was built on to begin with, before we can even peel back the layers of, equity and access for all.
Absolutely.
What else are they saying? We need to stop forcing kids to learn things that they don't even use in real life. Absolutely. And that's why they're bored. That's why, and parents get upset with me when, I'm advocating for kids. Like if they'll be like, oh, so-and-so teacher called. And I'm like, what they say? Well, the kid told me that my lesson was boring. Okay, it probably was. Why are they in trouble for that? That means as a teacher, you need to rethink what you're doing. Or the kid won't sit down and pay attention and do what they need to do. Well, either they probably don't know how to do it, or they don't find meaning and value in it. So I'm really like, this whole kids getting in trouble in school, I have low tolerance for it, because when I walk into classrooms and I'm observing, I would be getting in trouble too, because it's boring, it's not relevant, and it's whack.
Yeah.
It's whack.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
like a lot of that stuff, I don't even remember what I even learned. A lot of that stuff I don't remember. I don't recall any information of what I've learned. And so that's a big problem. Like when you can't recall any information you learned, that means you've learned absolutely nothing. And it was just a waste of time, honestly.
And I'm gonna tell you why that's so problematic, and why this pandemic, I want us to switch the narrative around. Kids are gonna lose all of the learning and all this. Kids don't lose learning that's relevant. So if a kid goes into the kitchen and learns measurement or time by cooking a lesson, they'll never forget it. But if you put it in front of them in a worksheet packet that's out of context, that has nothing to do with anything, then they're just it's gonna escape their mind, because they actually haven't learned it. They just know it to sit down and be able to demonstrate mastery in that moment. But in terms of actually, you don't lose stuff that you've learned. If you don't remember it, that means you actually didn't learn it. And so when people are saying that kids are gonna lose all this learning, I'm like, quit trying to make it sound like y'all them something, because y'all haven't. If you taught them, you wouldn't be worried about them losing it. You don't lose the learning. That means you haven't really taught them. So Ms. Mobley is saying make learning fun. Absolutely.
Absolutely. You got to. That's the only way at this point. You got a whole new generation in school right now. Colleges are still trying to figure out what Gen Z want. What do they want? What do they need? How do we build residential halls for them? Like, they're still trying to figure all of that out.
But my question to you though, Raven, when you say they are trying to figure it out, are they asking Gen Z though?
That's the problem. Nobody's asking Gen Z. There's not enough research on Gen Z right now. So if you're coming up in student affairs, higher education, and you're looking for a doctoral degree, that's where the research is at. That's where it's at. Gen Z, because there's nothing right now. And so by the time Gen Z get all of the research done, then here comes a new generation. So they're behind. And so it's just a lot of behind work that goes into it.
Yeah, but I think it's nothing wrong with, like, as you have your incoming freshmen come into your college or university, sending out a survey. How do you best learn? What do you need? How long should classes be? When should we offer the classes? Are you a morning person? Are you a evening person? Like if kids want to have classes at midnight in college, I don't see why that's a problem. If they're paying you their coin to get an education, you should meet their needs. And so I just don't think we are leveraging their voice in the way we should.
Absolutely. Well, when you bring up surveys, I've seen the surveys that goes out to these students, and it literally says a few things like when they first get to the university, when they first come in, and like, what do you think your GPA is going to be by the time the end of the semester or the end of the year? And I'm like, based on what? You know, they based on what?
And
A lot of them end up shooting for 3.5, 4.0, and you're going to get those answers. But the reality is they're all probably going to average somewhere between a 2.8 and a 3.2.
exactly.
Based on what?
And that's what I think too. Like, you're asking them to set goals, but you don't understand what the barriers are that exist to help them get there. So it's like, yeah, I want to go to college and get a 4.0. Of course, that's why you have kids who are in the 6th grade saying they want to go to Harvard, but can't read on grade level because they don't even know that their teachers haven't ensured that they've gotten what they need. But their aspirations are high. I want to go to Harvard. I want to go to Princeton. I want to go to Yale. Kids will tell you that, and it is a desire of theirs. The sad part is we as a system are not preparing them for their outcomes to match their aspirations, and it just kills me.
Absolutely.
And then we have the audacity to sit and say, how dare a kid say that they want to be a lawyer? They don't even know how to read or write. Do you understand that you're the reason they don't know how to read or write?
Oh my God.
Like, some of the stuff that
Yeah.
it's just, it's crazy. But, and Ms. Mobley is saying, stop telling them to sit down and shut up. Ask them what drives them. Absolutely. And I tried to model this. Raven was one of my students. I think I've gotten better over time, but certainly Trayvon, and if Kenan is on here, will tell you that I had to learn very early on to let my boys challenge me. Because I didn't want them going to U of I and to all these college campuses and being in spaces where they felt inferior or couldn't, look somebody in the eye and say, like, no, you wrong, and we need to talk about this. But I think we as adults have to see ourselves as confident enough to know that when students challenge us, or when they know more than we know, that it doesn't mean that we're not great. Like, to me, that's a sign of I'm doing a good job as a teacher if you could teach me something. That's freedom. You know what I'm saying? What else they got? This pandemic is forcing learners to better understand what they want to learn and focus. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. How do we make learning fun but also prepare them for boring college lectures? So here's the thing, Tamika. This is what I feel. I mean, no, you go, Raven, because you at the college level. She said, how do you make learning fun but also prepare them for boring college lectures? I got thoughts. Okay, first. Here are my thoughts.
Go ahead.
We don't need to prepare them for boring college lectures. Why are the college lectures boring? I feel like we are constantly on this like rat race of like, let's prepare them for a bogus whack life. Because you're going to be in a college course where you got to sit for 2 hours listening to Ferris Bueller at the front of the room, then we're going to model our high school classrooms to look like that so you could be successful. No, how about we talk to these institutions of higher education, the coin from these kids, and ask them what they need. The lectures in college don't need to be boring. That's not a norm. I mean, it's a norm, but that doesn't have to be the expectation. So to me, I feel like it's problematic when we ask those sorts of questions, and not that it's any fault of yours, Tamika, or anybody's, but it's just what we're used to. And so we're trying to prepare them for what we know is to come. But I think those folks who are in higher ed have to advocate to change the structure in the system so that kids don't ever have to be exposed to that. We got to challenge the status quo. Lectures don't have to be boring. We got to make learning meaningful at every level. You had something else, Raven?
But the norm is that it is boring. That's the norm. That's what people think going in. I feel like academic affairs and higher education has never been on a level of how do we make this more interactive? They really know how to do that. They're not trained to make it more interactive. They're just trained to put up a PowerPoint and say what they have to say, get through all the slides, and boom, that's it. We as student affairs professionals, we're the ones who have to make everything pop. make everything fun, make it all sparkle. And so just to focus on like the holistic development of our students. And so we really try to like get them like focused in on their spirituality, also mentally, physically, emotionally, even academically, socially, personally. And so we really focus on every single thing. We have to make it as to where students are having fun. Academic affairs, they don't have to do that. All they have to do is put up a PowerPoint and teach.
Right.
And so,
but my question too, though, is why do we have to separate academics from social and emotional learning? It should all be the same, right? So it's like you go to these boring classes, you learn this stuff, but then academic affairs will take care of this part to make sure you're socially and spiritually and like learning is like who we are is who we are in every space. And I think we have to leverage that if we want to make learning more meaningful. That's just what I think.
Yeah. But it's always going to be separate until we figure out a way to come together and just to provide the right support for our students. And so that's the biggest point right now is like how do we make academic affairs and student affairs sit down and collaborate with one another?
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big
conversation. And I see, Tony, you're saying no classes at midnight. I hear you, but here's the thing. Kids in college are out all types of hours a night. And here's the other thing. If I'm a professor, I might actually focus better. I'm not a morning person. So for me, if you tell me if I'm a professor, I have to teach morning courses, I'm not going to be my best self. But and my thing is the whole point is to survey both the staff and the students to find out, because if you have 30 kids saying that they would prefer to have a ethics class at midnight and it's a professor willing to do it, then why not meet their needs? I and I'm not saying that was just an idea that came to me. I'm not saying it has to be that way. My whole point is we don't know what teachers and students need, but we need to elevate their voice to figure that out. What did Monique say?
Trayvon.
Oh, go ahead. What is it?
Said, why does class have to take place in a room with students seated looking at the teacher?
It don't have to.
It don't have to. I've had one professor, Trayvon, throughout my 4 years at Syracuse say, you know what? Let's go outside because it's a nice day. It's a really nice day. Let's go outside. I'll send you all the PowerPoint. You can all click through. And so that really caught me off guard. Oh, okay. We're going outside.
Yeah. And I think flexible learning is important. Even when I was at school with y'all, like I would say, if you need to stand up, you can grab a clipboard, go to the back of the room, do whatever. You don't have to be sitting. But I think it goes back to this. It's the factory style of learning, right? Like the whole goal is you travel through education based on how old you are. You go to this grade. You get this knowledge from the teacher. It's like the factory. I'm going to put a link to a video that kind of explains, Trayvon, kind of the history of how education came to be. And if you look at what it was like decades ago and you look at it now, it's still the same, even though the needs of the world have shifted, education has not. So there is no need for that to be. It's just that that's the norm. And so people, even when I was an administrator, people would often, judge schools based on how, behaved, how well in line kids were. Are kids at a level 0 in the classroom? Are they sitting up straight? Do they have their hands folded? Like, we're not doing none of that. Like, because a kid can be learning, and just because it's silent doesn't mean kids are learning. For me, how are they learning if they're not talking about what they're, engaged in, if they're not sharing ideas? So I think we just have to unlearn a lot of what we've been taught in terms of what's quality education, because it should not look like what it's looking like when people think like, oh, that's a really good school. The kids are in line, they're not loud, they're not talking, they're focused on the teacher. Like, that's not learning, right? It's not authentic learning.
Mm-hmm.
What did Monique say? All it takes is dedication from our students and innovation from teachers, taking research and opinions and forming ideas to take different approaches to teaching curriculum. A lot of the learning I did came from my notes and not from teachers' lectures. Yeah, that's real.
Yeah. You can set apart the educators that love what they do and are just doing a job.
That's it.
You really can.
That's it.
Yeah.
Tamika said, yes, challenging helps critical thinking skills. Absolutely. And we have to, and I think that that's a point of tension for Black families too. I just think based on how we've been taught to respect our elders, you don't get to ask questions, you don't pay no bills, you don't have no opinions, don't ask me nothing, do what I say because I said do it, and that's just it. And so then we go into spaces like school, work, whatever, and then we are afraid to ask questions because we've been taught basically whatever the adults say, that's what you do. You don't ask questions. You don't get to do that. Like
Right.
do what you told, and that's it. And so I think we have to do a bit of reflecting in the Black community around parenting and how we are preparing our kids to compete with you know, their counterparts, because you could see it when you go out in public and, you know, the white families' kids are roaming, picking up stuff, asking questions, and the parents are responding to them. Oh, baby, that's this. Or what does this mean? Oh, that means this. And like, it's very flexible. It's very freeing. It's very liberating for kids to be able to explore and ask questions, which is why they're able to maintain power, because they know how to do that when they navigate spaces. When we go out in public, we tell our kids, don't pick up nothing, don't ask me nothing, explore and ask questions, which is why they're able to maintain power, because they know how to do that when they navigate spaces.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Feedback. So yeah, so I think that's it. Let's see what else is down here.
Tamika said Gen Ed courses are usually taught by tenured professors. So yes, if we figure out how to shift power, we definitely can help these courses get more engaging. I find more young professionals are more engaging, go outside, go on field trips. We just have to wait until these older white men retire. No, like that's so true. Like when I think about like the generations that's coming into like my generation, millennials, we're going into higher ed. We're much younger and we're much more engaged, like getting students more engaged as well. And so when I think about like pushing out the older generation and pushing them out to retire, we're very much so sorry, it's echoing.
Is it?
We're very much, yeah, it's like echoing. We're very much so like supporting students to become like advocates and to just, it's echoing. I can barely hear. Ooh. 1 second.
I don't hear it. Maybe.
Yeah, I can hear my own voice. It's like a delay.
Is it? Is it still now?
But yeah, to her point, no, it's not.
Okay.
But to her point, yeah, like pushing out the older generation and pushing in like the younger professors to come in and also to have students becoming like more engaged. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, still a delay. Great conversation.
One of my daughter's teachers, 4th grade, told her that she needs to sit up with her hands folded while on Google Classroom. I had to send her a message to let her know that we're not going to stress her out. No, we are not. And here is the thing. That whole sit up with your hands folded, ain't no adult doing that. Ain't like, here is my thing. As a parent, if you listening, parent or student, be encouraged and empowered enough to ask a teacher, what's the purpose of your request? That's not disrespectful. I want to know what's the purpose of your request. So you tell me that I need to sit with my hands folded. What is the purpose? Help me understand why I need to know that's important for me to do. A teacher cannot, so then what are they going to say? Well, that means that you're listening. No, it doesn't, because I can have my hands folded and sit up and still tune you out. What is your purpose for asking me to sit with my hands folded other than you want to exude power? And this is every time I go into schools and I'm doing professional development sessions with staff and teachers. Purpose over power is the key. And that's how you build relationships with kids. I'm not going to tell you to do something simply because I have the power to do it. Like, I want all of y'all to be robots sitting up, you know, slanting, hands folded and all that. For what? What is your purpose? What is the purpose of this request? And if they can't tell you something that actually makes sense, then feel free to rebel against that. We have to learn how to advocate for ourselves in a way that is not causing us harm or oppression. I don't learn well. I don't listen well with my hands folded. So why are you going to make me do that? Simply because you can? That's not okay. And as I
Oh,
told you, Alicia,
that's
if you
not
need
okay.
support or help advocating for your babies, anybody on this slide, you need help, support, please reach out to me. Because as an educator, I am more than willing to advocate on your behalf. Some of these requests are just ridiculous. But here's the thing I will say. Most teachers, most of them, and administrators, they have the best intentions. They're only doing what they've been taught. They think, hey, this means that kids are learning, that somebody told them down the line that meant that they were engaged and that teachers were awesome if all of the kids were sitting up straight with their hands folded. Somebody taught them that. So oftentimes they just need a different perspective or way of thinking about it. And if you need me to help be a mediator to do that, please reach out to me. But no, first of all, you're not going to control my kid in your classroom. And what you're certainly not going to do is control them while they're in my house where I pay the bills. They don't have to sit up on Google Classroom. Oh, y'all, I just got.
Well, Ms. Carew, I think first and foremost, can we talk about like the bullying that's going on K through 12 and college as well with like these teachers, and also the insensitivity that's going on with like professors who's not being very much so sensitive to students' needs at this point, like the support, like maybe a family member is, maybe one had passed away, one is going through like health issues or something like that. I've seen situations with college students saying that their professors are not being very much so supportive to their needs. And so telling them that they have to get through a deaf to get an assignment done. With K through 12, you got to sit up or you have to turn on your video. Like that's
it's
a form
insensitive.
of bullying.
It's insensitive.
Yeah.
And it's insensitive. And the sad part though, Raven, is that I really think that they have the best intentions. They just don't understand or haven't done the work to unpack what that actually means or what that symbolizes when you're exuding your power in spaces where you can, just because you can. And they really just don't know, because when you have conversations with them, I'll ask them like, why are you telling the kids? Even when I was a principal and I would walk into classrooms and kids would be silent all the time, or what would be the worst is like they'll be talking, but then when I walk in the classroom, everybody gets silent. And like, it's almost like the teacher told them when the principal come in, just make sure you at a level 0. And it's like, why? Like, I don't have that expectation. Like, if they're talking about what they need to be talking about, that's what I want to see. Like, silence doesn't mean that this is a great classroom. And so I think, again, it goes back to what they've been taught, and what, the expectations that have been put on them. Because if your principal is telling you that kids need to, when I walk past your class, I need to see all kids silent, sitting up and sitting in slant, then that's what they're going to tell their kids, because they want to be compliant with their boss. You know what I'm saying? So it's just tough. Trayvon said, purpose is why I have been stagnated with education. I know, Trayvon. I think about you all the time. And actually, when I'm going to do these professional developments at different schools, I mention you all the time. Like, you are brilliant. And like, the way that schooling oppressed you in your mind did not serve you well. And I'm sorry, because I'm saying schools, and I was an employee at the school at the time, at your high school, and I participated in oppressive practices as well. I will say at the time, I did not understand or realize what I was doing. I thought I was doing what was best for you all. But now, through research and through, my own work, I've come to realize that what I did was uphold and perpetuate oppressive practices. And so I'm sorry. We've completely failed you, Trayvon. And so, I do think that, we need to take ownership for that. And now that I know better, I can do better, which is why I'm having forums like this, because I really wish somebody would have told me when I was a teacher back in the day, what I know now. It's like, how did y'all let me become a teacher without equipping me with enough understanding and knowledge about how I was harming kids? Like, I don't understand how that was actually possible, because my heart was in the right place. And even though my intention was well, doesn't mean it didn't harm you. It did. And the rest of your classmates too. So I'm sorry. I need to say that to you. We failed you. So purpose is important, which is why I'm going to schools now and talking to them about purpose over power, because I always have you in my mind, Trayvon. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Carew.
Yes, you too, Raven. You were there, so I'm sorry to you too.
Yeah.
Tamika said, just like a prison system. Sure. Absolutely, just like a prison system.
Absolutely.
Some of these
K-12
the
school to prison pipeline
is real. where kids have to walk in these straight lines on the tape, hands behind their back, tracking the head in front of them at a level
Yes.
0. No,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. What you preparing them for?
Yeah.
When you walk in the malls, that's what I go into schools and I ask them. I said, when you walk in the mall, do they have lines on the floor telling you where you can walk and you got to stay in 2 squares? Nobody does that. So if you want kids to learn how to walk in the hallway, how about you teach them? You don't need to have lines on the floor telling them that they better not get out of line. Another way to say, stay in your place, stay in line, don't talk, don't look at nothing, stay in line. Like, no, we have to speak out about these things because it's definitely school to prison pipeline. Yes, Trayvon, I am repping for Marcel today because we are giving voice to students, and I really wish that I understood what I know now, because back then I would have been doing my best to leverage your power and your voice, so that we would not have lost Marcel and other students, not just to the grave, but also to the prison system and also to the streets, because they chose not to engage in school because school wasn't for them. So I'm repping him today just to be reminded that we failed and we got to do better. Okay, Alicia. Okay, if you handled it well, then great. I mean, you could send them to me if you want, but if you ever feel like you know something is not right, but you don't know how to like really put it to words, reach out to me. Who else? Bring me along so we can, so my voice can be heard. Yes, Trayvon, I will be taking you to spaces.
I would love to listen to what Trayvon has to
say.
I'm
gonna try to do a live next Monday with students who were just brilliant, and all of them are. They just, didn't persevere through the educational system for a number of reasons, and I'm not gonna dare say it was their fault. So I want to hear, what the mistakes we made so that educators can learn from that.
Yeah. That would be a really good live for sure. I want to see that one for sure. That would be nice.
Inner city schools are made for kids caught up in the streets and penal system. Yep, unfortunately, designed to do exactly what it was meant to do.
Uphold white supremacy. I don't know about this. Yeah, for sure.
They want us to uphold white supremacy. Yep. Didn't know about deficit thinking until I was in my 30s, just perpetuating it, additional. Yes. So, and I was queen of that. Like, I would get parents together, students together real quick. Like, you're not trying your best, you're not motivated, parents don't care, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. All of that is deficit thinking. All of it is deficit. It's blaming the victim, because truth is the Black and brown students are the only victims in this situation. They're the only ones. Julian Bond had a quote that took me out. I was at a TFA event, and his quote said, Black violence is students going to school for 12 years and only receiving 6 years of education. Took me clean out, because it's so true. Kids go to school from kindergarten to 12th grade and will do everything that they're supposed to do and still can graduate not knowing how to read.
Oh my God.
How? And then we wonder why kids don't want to engage in school, because it's a waste of time. And that's why I was trying to tell parents on the very first live that we did, do not stress yourself out thinking that your child is missing some luxurious opportunity by not being in a school building. I have walked in many of classrooms where there was zero learning happening. Zero. So, I think this is a opportunity for parents to be more aware of what's going on, but it's not what y'all think it is in these schools. And so that's why I'm also advocating too for parents to be able to get out, go into schools when you can. I know you work and all that, but can you go in to observe the foolishness that's happening in these classrooms? It's not all peaches and cream. So like them being out of school for 3 months, I promise you, they ain't gonna miss a beat, because some of them have been sitting in the classroom all year and ain't learned a thing. And so when your kid comes home and you ask them, what did you learn today at school, and they don't have nothing to tell you, you can, probe and ask, like, what you mean you've been at school all day and you ain't learned nothing? Sometimes that's the case, and it's so sad, y'all, but I'm telling y'all the real.
Yeah. Well, Ms. Carew, can I ask you, like, what about these teachers who are young and they don't really know what they're doing? They mean well, but they don't really know what they're doing. Like as far as like teaching their students, and also, just having a handle of their classroom.
And you know what's been hard for me, Raven? Honestly, and this is gonna be hard for me to say because I left Las Vegas. I was a certified teacher in Las Vegas. When I came back to Chicago, my teaching certificate didn't transfer over for like 6 months, so I had to teach at a charter school before I could become certified in Illinois. That's the only reason why I started teaching at charter schools. But I never transitioned because I drank the Kool-Aid, being honest. But in hindsight, when I think about it, traditional public schools, teachers are required to be certified. That means they've had to go through some sort of program, understand the basics of teaching before they can get in front of somebody's child. Charter schools have the autonomy to hire teachers who are not necessarily certified. So what that means is 75% of the teaching staff have to be certified, but then that leaves 25% of the teaching staff that doesn't. I was pro-charter at first because when I opened up the school, the first school that I was at before I came to y'all school, I was not certified. And technically, I couldn't have taught 9th grade math if I would have went to CPS because I wasn't certified. That said, though, charter schools had the autonomy to hire me, and I had the highest scores in the network because I'm driven. I was determined to learn, make sure my kids had what they need, but that is an anomaly. Unless you have the drive to teach yourself and understand what your kids need. I was giving surveys to my students, asking them what I could do better for my lessons and all of that, and it was still not the best. But I was listening to what they were saying, which is why I got good results. There are charter schools now who are either hiring people that completely are not qualified, meaning young, but that's all that they have to offer. So if you work in a tough neighborhood like Inglewood, and teachers who are certified and could make don't want to go work there because it's hard, because kids are, in their mind, disrespectful, parents don't care, whatever the deficit thoughts that they have, then charter schools are left to hire whoever wants to work there. And, Amanda could want to work at Inglewood High School, not know nothing about teaching, but at least she cares enough about the kids to work there. So you're like, okay, Amanda, come work here. And so then she means well, but she don't have the skills to do it. Do you understand? I don't know if she got froze. So yeah, so that's how it works with, she was talking about young teachers who mean well and go into schools, but can't really, teach. It's like they need to be developed. And so unless we do that, they're not gonna have access to the skills necessary. Trayvon, my Black music teacher, told me that in 3rd grade, and I've seen it in front of me every day. Yep. Tamika, this is why everyone should read The Miseducation of the Negro. Yes. 5th grade, 8th grade, high school, and in college. Absolutely. Why haven't the teachers who are all for changing the system came together and created a new gateway? So here's the thing, Trayvon, it's hard because even I get weary sometimes thinking about the massiveness that is the system. And there are so many different avenues that you really probably need to attack in order for us to change it. So Raven, Trayvon asks, why haven't teachers who are all for changing the system come together and created a new gateway? So charter schools were supposed to be that gateway, Trayvon. So I could technically right now, as long as I have $12,000, open up a charter school. The problem is that the charter schools are held to the same accountability metrics as traditional public schools, which means even those who open up charter schools who mean well and want to do something different for kids, they end up doing the same thing that other schools are doing, because if they don't have good test scores, then their school will be closed. So for me, if I were to open up a school and start a new system, I would be measuring kids on self-awareness, self-determination, empathy, responsibility, things that will help them to be a good person. The problem is, though, my school wouldn't be held accountable for those things. And so if I want to stay open, I have to then do test prep to make sure the kids get high test scores, because that's what's most important to the district. So I know that there's a lot of teachers out there that want to do a different system, but the real way to go is what we need to do is raise a lot of money to open up a private school, because when you have a private school, you're not held accountable to the same things. You can determine what you want to do and how you want to do it. Yeah. But the problem is because Black and brown students need it, they don't necessarily have the money to pay for private schools. So you have to raise enough money to open a private school to educate in the way you want. And that's the hard part. Go ahead, Raven. What you have to say?
Yeah. Have you heard of a school called Milton Hershey? The Milton Hershey School? Yeah, it's for like students who are disadvantaged. So they get to go to that private school for free. Like it's an independent private school. And so
Wow.
it started off as a orphanage. It started off as one, and then it transitioned into a long transition into being like a school for disadvantaged students. And
When
so,
we get off of this,
you should
Raven,
look
text
into
me that so I
Milton
could
Hershey.
look into that. And so the other thing too is, right, and I'm not going to say that private schools are all great either. I know some private schools that are teaching kids 2 and 3 grade levels behind, but parents send them there because they're safe, right? There's a lot of reasons why. But for me, I want to start a private school that is for Black kids, by Black kids. Like I want kids to be on the administration team. Like to me, that's the importance of like, yeah, I'm the principal. I'm just making sure y'all, got what y'all need and y'all safe. But what are the kids saying that they want? What do the parents need? How can we be flexible? So to me, co-constructing that environment is the way to go. But like Ms. Mobley said, it's hard to think about the system in its totality. It's so many different avenues that you have to attack it from in order to be able to get what we really need. And I think that's the hard part. Like none of us have actually figured out the way in to penetrate the system to actually change it.
That's a good point. I think having students at the table is very much so important. I will share a story. At Syracuse, I did my internship with the Office of Residence Life, and they had all of these committees that was like focused on students in the residence halls. And so I was a part of at least 3 of those committees, and one of them was residential education. And so by me being there and implementing a residential curriculum based on like a student behalf, that opened more doors for other students to be more involved, and they saw that having a student involved was very much so essential to the other student experience. And so I think that that is a good point, and that's very much so important. And
Yeah, no, that's good. Mobley said scores are all that matters to schools, and that's true. And that's so true. And it's unfortunate because I only had a 21 on the ACT when I went to Morgan Park. I took it once, and at the time Morgan Park was like, if you don't get at least a 25, you could forget about college, you're not smart enough, and all this stuff. Ended up going to U of I, like graduated with 3.9 GPA at Morgan Park, went to U of I, killed undergrad, got my master's. Now I'm in a PhD program. So like this whole, standard of excellence based on numbers is just ludicrous. And the tests are racially biased. Like they're not intended for us to do well. And so that's why I refuse to open up another institution of learning that will force kids to succumb to be a number. Like, no, you're smart, you're intelligent, show me your work ethic. Like that's what's going to tell me how successful you're going to be, not some number that you got on the test. So yeah, absolutely.
Miss Career, I got a 19.
And look, and you're in graduate school. And that's why I think we have to share that, because sometimes I saw somebody made a post on Facebook not too long ago. I was like, what was your ACT score? And people was putting it on there, 32, whatever. And I read a comment that said, it was so low, I don't even want to talk about it. And I responded and was like, no, actually because she was like, it was so low, I don't want to talk about it, but I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a master's degree and all this stuff. And I was like, that's exactly why you need to talk about it, because people need to see that even if you got a low score, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of great things. So I put my 21 up there. Other people had like 32, all this other stuff. I'm like 21, and I'm in a PhD program, and I'm very successful for where I want to be. So like, I think the more that we share our stories and let people know that it's possible for you to be great, like, and the score does not dictate or determine, how far you can go in life. I think we have to take a stance to talk about that. Trayvon said, don't get me started on that. Look, I'm already knowing Trayvon. We been pushed out. Yep, people have been pushed out. Schools would die for kids who test high. Yeah. Yep. And they don't test real life skills. Yeah. No, I got you. They don't test real life skills. They're just not important. And I think, you know what? I honestly think that, and if you like kind of look at the trends now in higher ed, what they're starting to do now, some institutions have already gotten rid of the SAT, ACT requirement. Like, you don't even need to do that anymore to apply to some of the schools, because I think they are starting to realize that it's not really predictive. It's not. Attendance and GPA is actually the two predictors of college success. It ain't got nothing to do with test scores. And so, you know, we also see that folks who are not in Black and brown communities, they do well on those tests because they have the thousands of dollars to get tutored by Kaplan, the people who make the test. So it's not that they're smarter than us, it's just that they have access to resources to be able to game the system. No different than them being legacy and parents paying to get them into higher, you know, institutions of education. Like, it's all a game. And so that's why I want us to, you know, just be empowered to ask questions, to not to not feel like we have to fall in line with the status quo. Challenge, push, as a teacher, as a parent, as a student. Like, as long as you are respectfully challenging, and unfortunately, if you're Black or brown, no matter how respectful your challenge is, it might be met with like, no, you being disrespectful and all that. Like, and people gonna say that. Still challenge, still advocate. Like, you are there to be serviced, you are there to get your needs met, and if it's not happening, ask the questions. Any students that's listening on here, any parents that's listening on here, please empower your child to ask their teacher, what is the purpose of your request? Very simple. If they want them to sit up straight, be silent at lunch, all this old foolishness that's going on in school, silent lunch. What do you mean silent lunch? What is the purpose of your request? Why are you telling me I need to be silent at lunch? There's no purpose for that. Nobody sits at lunch at a restaurant and are silent. Like, what are you talking about? So I think we have to challenge the system. This is a prime opportunity for you guys to advocate for the needs of your child and for you as a parent, because we are going into uncharted territories. Schools are starting to blow up their strategic plans. So now's the time to reach out to say, hey, this is what I learned about my kid. They learn best when they can sit down for this amount of minutes, take a break, do whatever. Like, advocate, advocate, advocate. And if you haven't watched the other lives, I'm just going to share this one last thing before we get off. For students, and I'm not 100% sure if it applies to adults, but if I'm thinking about myself, it does apply to adults as well. But for students, they are able to focus uninterrupted for 3 minutes for every 1 year that they've been born or been alive. So if you have a 5-year-old child, that means they can focus for 3 minutes for the first year, 3 minutes for the second, 3 for the third, 4 for the fifth. So what that means is, if they're 5 times 3, that means 15 minutes of uninterrupted time. That's all they have in them. So don't get frustrated with them. I'm just wrapping up, Raven, but I wanted to wrap it up. So get your final thoughts together. But I'm just sharing with you guys. I don't know how to feedback. Hold on. Hello. It still seems like there's some feedback, but we're wrapping up. I'm just sharing with you guys that in terms of engagement, 3 minutes for every year that a child has been on this earth. So if they are 12 times 3, that's the amount of time that they can focus. So let them do a half hour, get up, move around, do whatever, have lunch, do some more work, so don't get frustrated. My point is, when you have them sitting down and you want them to focus for 3 hours straight, they're not capable. They're just not. In the world of technology and all the lights and glitz and glamour, they don't have it in them to sit that long and focus. So let them do a little bit, take a break, do a little bit, take a break. That's my closing remarks for you guys. This has been amazing. It has been very what do I want to say? Healing, very therapeutic for me to talk about this. I care deeply about the success of our Black and brown babies. And I'm just excited to be able to elevate the voices of the youth. So we have Sanaya, who was a 6th grader. We had Jackie, who's a 12th grader. And we have Raven, who is a student in a master's degree program right now. So I'm going to connect with Trayvon and a few other people to hopefully bring kids on next week, or not kids, they're grown now, but students on next week who were brilliant, had high ACT, SAT scores and all that, but just didn't make it through the system, because I want to elevate their voice so that we can hear what the barriers were to that. Raven, do you have any closing thoughts or remarks for folks?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and simple. I really just think college students at this time need encouragement. They need patience. They need time, and they need support, especially
Yeah.
like finishing up with their finals. Finals is like the most stressful time for college students. And so if you have a college student, you have an undergrad, you have a grad, just make sure that you are providing them with emotional support, making sure they're okay, asking them open-ended questions, just supporting them in general. Also being patient with them. They can't do everything. They have finals, they have exams, they have long papers that they have to finish up. And so patience is key.
Yeah. Thank you, Raven. I couldn't have said it better. And just because we're holding space for students, I also just want to hold space for Marcel Pearson, who was a former student of mine, one of my Carew boys, who had limitless potential, like super dope, star basketball player, but just wasn't supported in the ways that he needed to be supported to make it through the system. So I'm here for students like Marcel. I'm here for students like Raven, who are kicking butt and taking names. I'm here for Trayvon, and I'm here for all of the students who don't often get their voices heard. So if I can be an advocate for you, for your baby, if you have any questions for me, feel free to inbox me. I am here to support you guys. I am, like I said, going to put the 2 links in the comments when this is over. One, an article about the different types of schools. So as a parent or a student, you'll know what kind of school your kid is going to and which you want them to have access to. And the second is to Trayvon's question about classrooms being desks and listening to teachers and all that. So I'm going to put those 2 links in the comments. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Raven, you are a rock star. You are amazing. I am so proud of you. If there's anything I can do to support you, you know I got you. Okay.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. I love you.
Yeah,
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. And hopefully we'll be back on next Monday. Bye.
Next Monday is going to be good.